live from.
We had to
live
do
from
it.
no, I can do live. I can do live radio and live television.
Biden's speech.
Thank you,
set us all
Denver.
back.
We had a big
Set us
dramatic
all
open. I
back.
want to thank you, Denver. I don't know what's going on. Listen, no offense. The last 3 hours of watching on the empty National Mall can't be that exciting. Okay, we're live from the green room. We're live from the green zone. You're in the war room. It is Wednesday, the 20th of January, the year of our Lord, 2021. Over 30 million downloads on our podcast. Also, Real America's Voice, John Frederick's Radio Network. We're ubiquitous everywhere. We're going to have Peter Navarro. We actually had a very well thought through cold open that would have teed up the first section. But I guess we're not going to, first segment, I guess we're not going to get there. I want to go to, okay, we're going to talk about this inaugural speech. This is obviously the day of the installation of the Biden, I still call it the administration. Raheem Kassam and others call it the regime. I want to bring in now, you've got Jack Posobiec from One American News, Raheem Kassam from the National Pulse, and we're being joined by Peter Navarro, formerly the assistant to the president for trade and manufacturing. Will join us. Peter, I want to ask you first, and then talk to the two guys. Tell me about the inaugural address, your thoughts, perceptions, what plan, what overall vision did Joe Biden lay out, and what did he talk about America's place in the world, and what he's got to get done?
Well, Steve, let me tell you first about the green zone within the green zone that I'm stuck in. I'm in around Penn Quarter by the archives, looking at the Pennsylvania route. All I saw today, Steve, was no people, just soldiers in uniform, okay? And you could hear a pin drop in this city. You could hear a pin drop during Biden's speech. Look, first of all, he throws down immediately. He's like, oh, come on, everybody that didn't vote for him, let's make peace. And then he throws down and calls everybody who didn't vote for him, what, white extremists, or what? It's like we're coming for you.
Supremacists.
I mean, what's going on here, Joe? Yeah, it's like 6 months of turning a blind eye to BLM, Antifa, the lighting up of our cities, the burning down of our police stations, the obliteration of small business. And by the way, Steve, speaking of small business, I think the whole idea of having 30,000 troops here and shutting the city down was Muriel Bowser's idea. She's the mayor of D.C. She wanted to make sure that if there was one last remaining small business open in this town, she would crush the living life out of it. And she did that. So what I heard today is a very mixed message from Joe. On the one hand, it's like, hey, come let us reason together. And the other is, hey, if you voted for Trump, we're coming after you. So I think I'm ready to give him the next 4 years exactly the same thing that they gave Donald Trump. And let's see what happens here. But, I mean, this is not a good start in my judgment.
Yeah, guys, Raheem and Jack, jump in here. I'm going to pull some specific. We had them in the cold open, which you didn't hear, but I'll stop griping about that. I'm going to go back through here and pull them myself. I want to hear your two guys' thoughts.
Yeah, well, the main thing in this is you never heard one single breakout message in any of this speech. You never heard something that, what's the headline? What's the takeaway? It's pablum. It's rhetoric.
No, the headline is domestic terrorism.
And then it gets to the one specific that he says throughout the entire thing is we are going to use the force of the federal government to go after extremism and domestic terrorism.
Okay, so Fox News and all you guys, you didn't show the emptiness. No voters. It's a government without citizens, government without voters. And you use the excuse, oh, people knew did not come. That's all crap. I want to see the ratings of this thing. Nobody could have watched this. No. This is, and the guy said the night before when he said, Biden's arms, hugging you. That is it, David, the guy over at CNN. Yeah. Seems like a nice guy, but he's a fool, right? Never said anything intelligent. Never heard anything. I watch CNN to make sure you guys don't have to. Never saw any insights whatsoever from that guy. Now he's telling me that Biden's his arms are like, going to hug America and sniff your head. Okay. But I want to quote here from Joe Biden. By the way, this was like a C student from the University of Delaware, which Joe Biden was, from the University of Delaware, having the night before to turn in a term paper in rhetoric, right? It's just a word salad. It's a bunch of, he tried to be like Lincoln's, the first Lincoln's first inaugural, right, in a national crisis, and he botched it. But I want to just quote here. To those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. Unfortunately, Joe, they didn't show up at your inauguration. They were so excited. To those who support our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, that would be this room, in our audience, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. If you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America, the right to dissent peaceably. Within the guardrails of our republic, it's perhaps our nation's greatest strength. Hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. I like it all. I have heard enough. I'll listen to more, but I have heard enough. And I disagree. I disagree fundamentally. How can you, with the Chinese Communist Party and what they've done on the virus, and have it come out the other day from Wuhan, we know it's from Wuhan, how can you sit up there and say the greatest threat facing America is domestic terrorism? And I'm not saying there may be some issues with that, and clearly that should be looked at and investigated, even-handedly, and we could come to some conclusion. But write this down, Tony Blinken and the other guys around him, with your number 2 principle. In fact, write this in ink, indelible ink. That is not the greatest threat to the United States of America. The greatest threat to the United States of America is the Chinese Communist Party. This is why we got the virus, why the economy shattered, why you had, in back of them, talk about stagecraft. Burning, these guys are sitting on, it looks like a high school football game with your team losing down 34-0 at halftime. It looked like a high school football game with you losing.
Bill Clinton fell asleep. He did.
Sleepy Bill.
By the way, it was like a
Listen to
6-minute speech and he falls asleep through it, right? Bernie Sanders sitting there
If
like
Hillary
this.
was your date, you'd fall asleep.
To be
Oh,
fair, I
gosh.
fell asleep once or twice.
Actually, I would not fall asleep with Hillary Clinton around.
No,
I'll tell you
no,
what,
no,
you don't
no,
know
no.
what's going on.
Let me retract that.
But hang on,
Upon further review.
Take a quick tour around the left-wing news websites right now, and it tells you all you need to know about the level of enthusiasm
They're not
there is
talking
out
about the
there.
speech at all.
They're not. Okay, CNN, Biden and Harris get to work. New York Times, Biden is sworn in as 46th president. Talking Points memo, democracy has prevailed. Mother Jones, Biden's inaugural address, a plea for unity. Salon.com's headline is, now what? It's nobody is excited about this guy.
This is, guys, you laid an egg. This is, and here's why. You never went on the campaign trail. He's never really given a speech. All his speeches are a nightmare because he wanders all over the place. He had his big moment with no crowd. You know how disorienting he must have been standing up there on that podium with nobody in front of you, like a couple of hundred people. This is a joke, ladies and gentlemen. This is a sham. This is a con. Peter Navarro, Dr. Peter Navarro, I want your assessment of the whole stagecraft of it, of the day, of the armed camp. You can't go to Navarro lives down by the White House, can't get to the war room on Capitol Hill because it's an armed military camp. You got to go through 4 checkpoints.
Yeah, and I can't even get my live feed up on the show here. Denver, I'm here, baby. Here's the deal. I remember 4 years ago when we came to the inauguration, and it was amazing. It was huge. May not have been Sean Spicer huge, but there was a lot of tension in the nation, but we all got along. There was no violence that day. It was I fear for this country when this country and the left now is in power thinks that the only solution there is to lock this country down. I mean that what happened to the stiff upper lip? I mean, if Joe Biden had been around in World War II, London would be speaking German right now, based on what we're seeing from the very beginning. And Steve, don't forget. I mean, you read that part of hear me out, right, in the speech. You got to read the other part where he says about white extremism being the greatest threat. Yeah, I mean, he's saying, as you said, that this is the single greatest existential threat. Really? Really?
Yeah.
China, Iran, North Korea, Russia. I mean, I was a little pleased with at least 2 sentences in Blinken's
Hold on, we'll get to
Congress
don't wander on me. Don't wander on me. We'll get to Blinken later.
Today.
Biden. You talk about the consolidation
right here behind Air Force One.
Yeah, I love that shot. That was today. Peter Navarro. Dr. Peter Navarro doesn't have the White House in back of him, but he's got Air Force One. I love that. Great shot.
These are
Okay. We're going to go to break, but I want to bring this up. Even the left media can't hide this. They can't hide the incompetence. They can't hide the lack of fire. They can't hide the lack of a real vision. You just can't say unity. You want unity, Joe? Here's how you get unity. Sit down with people and let's go through the receipts. Convince people, because more people believe, and now after today, trust me, it's going to be a lot easier, okay? People are going to go, hey, I don't get this. There was nobody there, and the ratings are going to be atrocious. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The speech was pathetic, right? We heard it out. Okay, I heard you, and we'll listen as you go forward. He is going to have 2 EOs. I'll talk to Navarro later, I think, about Buy American. We'll have to see about that, but he's in a flurry of EOs that are just to unwind everything Trump did. Hey, that's okay. That's their prerogative. We did the same thing with Obama. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return. Maybe we'll have our cold open in the next segment. We're going to take our commercial break. I've got Raheem Kassam, Jack Posobiec, Peter Navarro. This is War and Pandemic. We will be back in just a second. And all the guys in Beijing that put Navarro and Bannon on the watch list today, put us on the sanction.
No-fly zone.
Put us in the sanction, no-fly zone. This is our out music, boys. Take down the CCP.
Bannon. The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room, Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Still some tinkering going on with the inaugural address, but his aides have made really clear it's not like he's trying to ignore or paper over either what happened at the Capitol 2 weeks ago or what we've been through throughout 4 years of the Trump presidency. And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms. And contrast that with
a cry for survival comes from the planet itself, a cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat. To all those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. If you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did.
It gets a C minus, and it got claps of a high school, a Division III high school football game at halftime or right before half when you're down. The parents are still there. The parents for the team are still there. That's pathetic. But Joe, I wanted to think about demonstrating peacefully. Just remember, not just your opponents, but remember, please, the BLM and Antifa, your supporters, about them protesting peacefully. And the last thing you said, hey, for everybody who supported me, I'm really thankful. Why didn't they show up? Why didn't they show up? You know what? They didn't show up because you told them not to show up. Okay, I got it. So then the TV audience is going to be completely overwhelming. I'm going to be blown away. I want to flip back.
He's got a
He's got a mask on at the Resolute desk.
At the Resolute desk right now. He's sitting at the desk and he's got a mask on.
This is buffoonery.
Oh my goodness!
It's buffoonery. Okay, Joe, we heard you out. We can't hear you through the mask. I take the mask off.
He doesn't have it.
It's buffoonery.
He doesn't have it.
This is buffoonery. I didn't get the
Dude,
thing in
how
Delaware yesterday, and I'm not here to pick on a guy. I tell you, we're not picking on a guy. We are not doing that. But this is buffoonery. It's buffoonery.
But how worrisome is it that actually he probably doesn't know what he's signing there? He has no idea what's going on.
In Beijing, they're belly laughing at us. I'll tell you what, they're not belly laughing at us. Can we get that? Can we get the tweet up and the thing? Today at 12:04, I'm very proud of this. At 12:04, right after Joe Biden, right after high noon, he became a president of the United States at high noon. At 12:04, 4 minutes afterwards, Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party, put, I think it was 20 some people, but some prominent people in the government. 28. Put Mike Pompeo. It put Matt Pottinger. Some of the hammers on the China policy. Put our co-host Peter Navarro on a sanctions list. Can't travel to China, can't travel to Hong Kong, but most importantly, you can't have any business association with any Chinese company. Okay? Huge sanctions. This is what we want to put on the Chinese when they took over Hong Kong. They came back to us. And last but not least, your humble servant, Stephen K. Bannon, which I think is the only civilian, and people tell me they've never seen a civilian, or very rare to have civilians sanctioned by the official apparatus of the Chinese Communist Party. Of course, Global Times piling there. And I gave Josh Rogan, who's got an amazing book coming out in a couple of weeks, I think in March, on this, on Peter Navarro, as you know, the Trump administration's war against the Chinese Communist Party. And I said, hey, it was an honor. It was one of the greatest honors I'd ever had to be put on particularly when President Trump had left office, it was an honor to be put on this sanction list by the Chinese Communist Party. And it only intensified my efforts to support Lao Beijing, old 100 names in China, in their historic fight for freedom, which is the defining story of the 21st century. Wouldn't know any of that by listening to this pablum. This is the C- This is the C- student that's got to do the rhetoric, exercise the next day.
C- is very, very charitable. Let me tell you something. As somebody who used to write speeches for a living, if I gave that speech to Nigel Farage, he would have said to me, "Hey, brother, it's been great working with you, but
you got to go.
Can't do this anymore."
Yeah, this is pathetic. And not just no vision, no driving force. This thing's laid an egg. This is what the mainstream media is not going to be able to cover up. They're not going to be able to cover up any of this.
Well, keep in mind, it also, let me throw this at you. It also shows
Steve,
that his...
Steve, let's...
jump in here, Peter.
Let's stay with this sanctions thing. This is no small deal, Steve. I mean, basically, they've thrown down on us, basically, and said, okay, I can't do business with China. Well, that ain't going to happen. I can't go to Hong Kong or China. That can't happen. But here's the thing. How about, the 70% of Americans who think that China is a major threat and blame China for the virus and want them to pay for that? How about if China puts them on the sanctions list? Because ultimately, what we need to do is stop American capital from flowing directly into China or indirectly through Hong Kong. So they threw down on us, Steve. This is a badge of honor from the country that gave us the China virus and the loss of 5 million manufacturing jobs and over 70,000 factories. But let's think about it. I mean, they made some history today. They did something new where they're going after American citizens worked in the government because we dared to stand up to their crap. Okay? So stay with that for a while. That's no small thing. That's bigger than Joe Biden's pathetic speech today, in a way. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Biden foreign policy apparatus does with this stuff. I'll bet you a lot of money, Steve, that there's not going to be a single Biden person put on any one of those lists. Not going to happen.
What's your thoughts on this? Because you're naval. You speak Mandarin.
That's actually my take on this. Is that it's a two-pronged message. So it's signaling out you guys as public enemies number one, but it's also, think of the timing, 12:04, high noon.
Yep.
This was a message.
First action they took.
Marching orders to the Biden administration, to Tony Blinken and the rest, and of course Hunter Biden. We've been through that laptop. This was a message. Serve us well, and you will be rewarded. Serve us poorly, and you will be punished.
That, on the screen right now for our podcast and radio fans can't see it, we've got up some of the tweets. It's saying that Pompeo, Pottinger, Navarro, Bannon,
read it?
and others. Yeah, go ahead.
This is breaking. China imposes sanctions on 28 American nationals, including Trump administration officials Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Peter Navarro, and Stephen K. Bannon.
So we're very honored to.
Hey, how did Bolton wind up on this list?
I know. They read the they read the book and want their money back
for the CCP.
I don't want to be too.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I don't want to be.
What, Bolton, I don't want to be on the same page as John Bolton after that book he wrote, and you know, I'm just saying, guys. I was in the White House, and all the time he was there, he never did anything, not a single thing. Not a single thing did he do about China. Nothing. And so I'm just saying, I don't know how he rates to be
He
on
probably
that
would have blamed
list.
the
I think
virus
it's
on Iran.
a head fake.
I want to talk about Tony.
Maybe Putin said, put him on that list.
Okay, I'm gonna get to Tony Blinken and what's going to happen here because I'm giving you signal, not noise. The signal is China, and the signal is immigration and American sovereignty and the border. Obviously, the tech oligarchs and all that. But remember, the tech oligarchs in business with the CCP. However, I have an observation, and I'm not trying to be too snarky. I think there was actually more people in some of the scenes that Hunter had on his hard drive than it was at the inauguration today.
Oh. Whoa.
Bada bing. No, I'm serious. I can't get over it, and I'm going to be obsessed about this, and particularly the mainstream media trying to cover it up. Ladies and gentlemen, the single most important thing you can do today is get those shots of a totally empty Washington, D.C., except for troops, and the lawn right in front of where Biden gave the speech. And obviously the podium in background was almost empty, but put it out there, nobody showed up. And we're going to compare that with what the
Steve,
numbers.
I want Spicer to do. I want Spicer to do the color commentary on this. He can kind of like salvage his reputation by saying that was the most poorly attended inauguration in history.
Yeah, you remember he had the metro statistics. Remember he was
Yeah,
going through the metro. They
Metro.
never
Well,
had
you
this
guys
many
on the
lines on the
outside.
metro.
Raheem, what do you got?
Well, I can't wait to see the TV viewership figures. I mean, I
Yeah.
think this is also going to be record lows. Look, they're going to try and find some way to spin it. And by the way, I got to say this: I flipped over to Fox just to see how it was going to be covered. Oh my goodness, they were fawning for what a wonderful poem that was read. It was awful. It was dreadful. It was all pathos. Nothing.
The other thing about Fox, I had somebody watch it the entire time. They said they never pulled back, never talked about the lack of a crowd, always kept the shots tight, and just fawned over it the entire time. That this was Lincoln's, it was like Lincoln's first inaugural address right before the Civil War. Afraid it's not. This thing was pathetic. But Joe, we're taking it at your word. We heard you. We're not impressed. Okay, you got to step up your game. Maybe demask in the on the Resolute desk. If you demask, maybe it gets a little better. Okay, we're taking a short commercial break. We're going to be back in a second. We're going to be talking Hunger Games. What went on the podium today that reminds us of the Hunger Games. All next on War Room Pandemic.
It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over, 'cause we're taking down the CCP, spread the word all through Hong Kong, we will fight till they're all gone, we rejoice when there's no more, let's take down the CCP.
Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We were going to show the Hunger Games, and the reason we were going to show the Hunger Games, I don't know if we can get the still up. Lady Gaga, what was that ensemble? And tell me what it meant. Jack
So,
Posobiec.
about a week ago here, we played that first Hunger Games trailer, and I said, it looks like this is going to be Joe Biden's inauguration because you saw the military around, there was no crowd, no people, and yet we're all told now is the time for unity. Now the nation has been healed. The traitors have been purged, right? Taken away. And then Lady Gaga gets up there and wears as a brooch this giant, I guess it's a dove, but it was a golden, huge. I mean, the thing's as big as
You're
her
from
shoulders.
Philadelphia. I thought it was the Philadelphia Eagles logo.
I wish it was the Eagles logo, but no. This thing looked exactly like the Hunger Games, the main logo of the Hunger Games. I'm like, Lady Gaga, if you are out there secretly listening to this,
She's
right,
so listening.
call
Yeah.
in because we want to have you on. Right, I think she's secretly.
Oh, she
listening.
no,
She's
she
in-
was.
Is she in the live chat?
Hold on.
Yes.
Is she in the live chat?
She was trolling.
Gaga's in the live chat.
She was trolling. That was definitely trolling.
It was trolling. It had
to be trolling.
Had to be.
Because they go through the stylist. They get it down to a T. So from Hollywood days, that was absolutely trolling. She knew exactly what she was doing, and that was very emblematic. We'll try to get. No, let's not go to it now. We blew it. You blew it, guys. Good try. You got to do that as a cold opener. It doesn't work. I want to bring Navarro back in here for a second. Also, I don't want to heckle people, but how did those arrests go today? Right? How did those? Wasn't everybody supposed to be arrested for Trump?
There's still plenty of day left for Q to be right.
Okay, hang on. I only say that will not pass my lips. Listen, it's time to get away from fantasy and get focused on reality. And I realize a lot of you guys are curled up now because General Flynn didn't take over. The troops did not end up reporting to General
All right,
Flynn.
Thomas Massey had a tweet up. He said, "Can we go back to 1D chess now? Just 1D chess. Let's focus on 1D."
Yeah, 1D.
Like it's maybe 2D.
So, Peter, let's bring you in. Peter Navarro, the assistant to the president. Walk us through. Walk us through your thoughts on President Trump had a dramatic, I think, low key but dramatic exit, and he was very classy in that he mentioned Mike Pence's name and given a thank you to the White House staff, everything like that. But Mike Pence did not return it. Mike Pence, in his farewell address, failed to mention the president of these United States. And I just want to remind everybody, when he took Mike Pence on as VP, Mike Pence was down a hard 5 in his reelect as governor with about 100 days to go or 150 days to go. Trump took him on board. So it's not exactly a guy who was blowing the doors off things when Trump took him on as VP. So, Peter, what are your thoughts about President Trump's exit? There weren't mass arrests. The turns out the National Guard was not put here by President Trump. It was actually put here by Nancy Pelosi and I think the VP and Mayor Bowser, and with the machine, the human loaded machine gun nest and half tracks and all that. So, what are your thoughts?
Mike was down 5 back in 2016 when he got the nod, but it's also true that, at least according to the suppression polls, we were down by about 10 at one point leading into this campaign. And you know who stuck by Mike Pence? You know who stuck by him? All these other, put a woman on the ticket, do that, you need that. You know who stuck by Mike Pence? Donald J. Trump. And history is not going to judge January 6th well, I think, for now the ex-vice president, because that was a day where we had an historic moment to basically shift the entire direction of this country. And a combination of events conspired against that, but part of that was the gentleman sitting up presiding over that chamber. And look, it's like, Steve, it's like kumbaya today on Capitol Hill, with Joe Biden's reaching out to all the people on the other side who didn't vote for him, right? And you know what? Tomorrow, they're going to come hellfire at the president with his BS impeachment.
Well, okay, hang on.
And so, I mean, he's talking through six forked tongues there.
Okay, hang on.
So that's where I see those two things meeting, Steve. Biden with his fake kumbaya, the president with his graciousness, Mike Pence in the middle of that.
Let's get into this. A couple things. John Eastman, John Eastman got an amazing article in The American Mind that walks through the logic and why Mike Pence was wrong from a constitutional point of view. Eastman will be on here. You got breaking news, Raheem, about the letter.
Two things.
Yeah.
One, breaking news. The President, Joe Biden, has signed an executive order to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement in the last couple of minutes. And then the other one is...
That's noise, not signal.
Particularly... Well, thank you.
The ephemeral. No. My point is that they're going to do some things that are ephemeral, and some things, like Cortez said, you got to focus on the immigration.
I just do the news.
I got it.
And Rush Limbaugh reads it out, which we'll
get to
play in the
a
next segment. Reuters is reporting that President Biden says that President Trump wrote him a, quote, very generous letter. He says the president wrote a very generous letter, but it was private. I won't talk about it until I talk to him, but it was generous.
It's in the desk. It's in the drawer of the the Resolute. The president goes in the first into the Oval Office, and the tradition is they open the letter, reads it to himself, and then puts it away and not to be seen, and we go on from there. Then the day starts. John Eastman's going to be here to talk about that. I want to get back to what we're hearing around town is that their focus, although it wasn't in the speech, he didn't really articulate it, is going to be the CCP virus, right? They're going to even get more intense about the CCP virus. I think lockdowns. I think there's more coming. Obviously, they got this legislation to get the COVID bill out. Jack, what are you hearing?
We're hearing this as well. So my sources in the Biden White House, which I do actually have because, well, we won't get into that. But they're saying that the new response is a total micromanagement from the White House down of the rollout of the vaccine, of the distributions, everything. They want to go to the states, dictate how this is done. They want to go to the hospital level, dictate how this is done. They want it all being done at the level of the White House. So this is what you would see during the Obama administration in the later stages of the war on terror, a complete micromanagement of everything that's done. This is what I remember from my IC days, where they're making decisions even at the lowest level, thousands of miles away.
They're also, and this has been reported around town if you read the buried leads, they're talking about getting the military involved in the distribution of the vaccine. They don't like the model that's been put out there. And I know, look, there's a lot of debate. And I haven't quite figured out yet because I don't think it's been reported enough. Peter, I want to go back to you. Is this because there's enough resistance that people are saying, hey, I'm not so sure about this vaccine? And Peter, I realize you guys had a Herculean effort to get it out. Or is it the distribution system just does not work, and so now they're going to bring in the military and focus on that? Mr. Peter Navarro.
Here's the thing I worry about, Steve. I worry about the bad actor pharmaceutical companies that are supposed to be moving all this stuff through the supply chain. What I think has clearly happened, for example, with Pfizer, is it's overpromised, overcommitted across its global supply chain. So that's created bottlenecks and shortages here. They're not focused on the American ball. They're focused on their bottom line. And of all the companies that I interacted with, and I was the Defense Production Act Policy Coordinator, Pfizer was one of the worst bad actors. So that's going to be a problem. The other thing I can tell you is, having try to manage the movement of personal protective equipment and various other things through the supply chains, to the local hospitals, to the doctors, to the testing centers. It's a beast. And if you apply a Soviet-style command and control model, you're going to wipe away any last vestige of the grassroots ability of the distributors and the administrators at hospitals and the people who actually can get stuff done in the last few miles of that. And it's not gonna turn out well. It was like, of course, the media was a love fest and a hug fest today, but I think you're going to see two things happen fairly quickly. You're going to see the economy rapidly deteriorate, both on falling things like consumer confidence over expectation of bigger lockdowns, but actually also on terms of real data. And then you're going to see further stumbling blocks and problems with this vaccine distribution if they go to this command and control model. So they've got their hands full. And I think this is going to be the greatest case of you don't know what you got till it's gone. I mean,
they're also
hang on
extraordinary.
Okay, hang on, Posobiec.
Well, what I'm also getting is that they do want to enforce, they want to ratchet up the lockdowns, continued vaccine distribution, but they're looking at the vaccine distributions as a quick Band-Aid fix, and they're even saying these new strains, that'll give us the excuse to be able to push for more lockdowns and say the distribution's going to solve anything. Meanwhile, I said, well, what about small business? Did they mention small business? They said it didn't even come up.
Raheem, have they made, it's not the because they're always going to be opposed, but has the case been made enough, because the mainstream media, knowing it was Trump's, didn't really want to get in back of it, and are they going to try to, have they really made the case for the vaccine? Because you don't hear, it's not buzz, it's not out there, it's not people saying I'm going to get my vaccine. You've heard these stories, But has the case been made that people say I've got to get it, and then that makes the distribution kind of work because more people
are seeking it out.
Yeah, people are seeking it out, exactly, and they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and the other part of it, with the answer to your question is no. But the other part of it is so many different countries are adopting different methods to doing this. I mean, Britain recently abandoned having people taking two portions of it, which you're supposed to have, and now just giving everyone one and saying, hey, we're going to come back when we've got enough and give you your second part of this. Well, it either works with one or it doesn't work with one, right? You can't just kind of make science up on the fly. So I think across the Western world, people are kind of scratching their heads going, why would we take part in this?
What Posobiec's talking about this command and control distribution, and remember, doing more lockdowns. And Peter, I'm going to come back to you. Janet Yellen, this is signal, not noise. Janet Yellen the other day said we're going to go large. Bigger deficits, we don't mind this. Interest rates are low. Yeah. And it was really modern monetary theory. Ladies and gentlemen, let me write this down. If interest rates go to zero in the United States or negative interest rates, we are not a country like Switzerland. We're not a country like Germany. We're not a country like Japan. Okay? We're a diverse, robust population. The negative interest rates destroy the little guy. Okay? Peter Navarro, we got a minute. Talk to us about what your economic forecast right now as you see it over the next 90 to 100, next couple of months.
I want to lay this marker down. What's going to happen next, don't blame Donald Trump for. Blame Nancy Pelosi. What's happened is no matter how much money they throw at this, Steve, they already destroyed too many small businesses over the last 3 months leading up to the election because Pelosi made the gamble that it was better to let those businesses fail than give Donald Trump a victory with $2,000 checks in people's households. And so we are in for a big hurt, and small business is really the core of our economy, and it's wounded. I don't know if it's mortally wounded, but it is seriously wounded, and I don't care how much money they throw at this right now. That's not going to be the solution. On top of all the other structural adjustments we have, we'll talk about in a later segment with the cities and things like that. But this is hard times.
Let us go to a quick commercial break. We'll return with the team in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, just don't think because we had some camaraderie in the war room today that we don't take this is deadly serious. We understand that. And this is why we're saying stop the fantasy. There were no mass arrests today, so I want everybody, if you curl up because your fantasy didn't come true, shake it off, become an adult, put away the cosplay costume, right? And join the war room. Get focused. Okay, I want 2 minutes. I want to go around the table. Start with Raheem, Jack, then Peter Navarro. I want to get our audience ahead of what's happening here. Walk me through the next 2 days. Get me to the weekend of what Biden is going to be doing to basically erase all measures of Donald J. Trump.
So it's really interesting. He's obviously doing a lot in terms of the executive actions right now, and we're expecting a press conference by the incoming press secretary also. So I think that will give us some ideas of what they want us to perceive are the priorities. But behind the scenes, what a lot of the conversations will be is, hey, how do we take this Trump guy out of the national conversation? What is the best way to frighten him into a hole and keep him there? Now, of course, they've got, and let Jack talk about this a little bit more, the Senate trial that is still pending in all of this as well. But you saw the statement that Joe Biden put out just very recently talking about the generous letter he received from Trump. And he said in that statement that he'll wait to talk to President Trump before actually divulging the details, or if he will, maybe even divulge the details of what's in that letter. They have a very, very fine thing to thread here because they want to appear in front of the American public to be magnanimous in victory, to be bringing the country together, to deliver on the claims of unity that he kind of half made in that short yet somehow still rambling speech on Capitol Hill earlier today. But at the same time, at the very forefront of their minds will be how do we persecute and prosecute the president and his supporters so they can't pose us electoral problems or any other kind of problems in the next couple. It's going to be really interesting to watch that needle be thread.
Posobiec.
Yeah, the key that you need to look at for the next 48 hours, 72 hours, even going into next week, right? picking off what Raheem said, is does this movement that he's launched or that he's a part of, do they stand for unity or do they stand for silencing dissent, going after anyone who disagrees, going after anyone who stands up to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party? What we're hearing coming in now is that their plan is a bunch of rehashed work that the Trump administration was doing, Operation Warp Speed, the distribution plan with the military. Now Amazon suddenly says they're going to get involved. Kind of interesting they couldn't mention that last week or last month or 2 months ago, but now Amazon wants
and
to get
more
involved.
lockdowns.
And more lockdowns. They're going to use the strains to justify the new strains to justify more lockdowns. And here's the other key part. They want to use this to claim that any hurdle in their nominees, the confirmation process with the Senate of judges, nominees, courts, administration, etc., they're going to say that any block, any challenge, any question is a hindrance to their COVID response. But here's the real truth is they don't have any response. And as far as President Trump, they are going to use these articles of impeachment that Nancy Pelosi has yet to deliver to the Senate as a sword of Damocles to hold over him in the House to try and keep him in check as long as possible.
Yeah, remember, she hasn't delivered. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Peter Navarro.
All right, going to make some predictions. First of all, the next 48 hours are going to be the most important of the next 4 years. If Joe Biden is unable to convince Pelosi and Schumer from backing down from trying to gut Donald J. Trump, forget about unity. That's gone. That's off the table. This will be a 50-50 country. The gap between us will be a chasm, and it's going to be nothing but friction. Number two, Mitch McConnell. He will not be the leader, Republican leader of the Senate if he keeps doing what he did doing to Donald J. Trump. And the same thing is going to happen to Kevin McCarthy in the House. I'd much prefer to see somebody like Jim Jordan leading that chamber than Kevin McCarthy with the stuff coming out of his mouth. So those two gentlemen and Lindsey Graham have to make some choices here about what the hell it is they're doing, because what they've been doing over the last 48 and 72 hours is not good for the party. It's not good for the president. It's not good for the country. Finally, Chuck and Nancy, they milked this for all it's worth, but Donald J. Trump got on this plane today and went home to Florida. And if you want to hound him any further, you're just going to make him more of an issue and a bigger issue, and you will regret it.
Okay,
so let's see what happens in the next 48 hours.
I take a different tack. I want the Senate trial. I want to deliver. I want to call their bluff. Have her walk it over tomorrow. Here's what I want to see. I want to see a full Senate.
Steve, hang on. I got to make one thing clear.
Yep.
I want the Senate trial too. I'm just saying that that's what they should do if they had any sense. If they don't do it, bring it on. I'm ready to go up there with you, Cortez, Eastman, Giuliani, and spend 40 days like a usual impeachment trial goes.
Let me give you a heads up. Let me give the
how do you like them apples?
Let me give the Republican senators a thing. We're going to start on Wisconsin. Okay, we're going to walk. You're going to take 2 days, and you're going to have to sit there and see how they stole Wisconsin. Then we're going to go to Georgia, and there's not going to be any servers on the moon or gun battles in Frankfurt. There's not going to be any martial law or mass arrest or 5D chess. We're going to show you the receipts. You're going to get 4 or 5 days of just good old Wisconsin and Georgia. Jack Posobiec knows that he stood up for an hour. Had 1 million views staying up and watching Knutson and Spindell.
Bobsled.
They're going to bring them as witnesses. Let them talk about what the clerks did in Wisconsin. The Republicans in the Senate can't handle the truth. Forget the Democrats. It's the Republicans in the Senate can't handle the truth. President Trump needs a venue. He needs a venue to make his case to the American people. And I got to tell you, you're going to see him back down. They do not want Trump's evidence to come forward. Okay, and you can take us down on YouTube, you take down all of it, but when it's in the Senate floor, I dare you to take down that, and that's what President Trump needs. And so we had Pelosi's bluff, Chuck Schumer's bluff, and particularly Mitch McConnell. When the Financial Times of London has a blaring headline, McConnell blames Trump for a mob's deadly assault on Capitol. That's the number one financial paper in the world. That's the headline you saw today. This is absurd. It's time to get the evidence out. Okay, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. You'll have the War Room posse here. It's day one of whoever knows what it is, but we're going to be deconstructing it every day. Want to thank you for tuning in today. Apologize for the technical problems. We'll be sharper tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Thank you all.